What's up, Snow?
What up, MJ?
I know you were really excited for this one because
So excited.
what do you like more than anything?
Documentaries about cults.
Exactly.
I can't get enough of them. I just find it fascinating. Like, just everything that's involved. Maybe it's because, like, I also come from a religious background, though I hope if my family's listening right now, earmuffs.
The Catholic cult?
Yes.
Okay.
Although I do like I like the new pope and I like the former pope.
I
Okay.
do like the new pope.
Do like them.
Yeah. All right, so I'll let you do the introductions.
So today we are talking to our friends V and Richard. Met you at the last protest.
Yes.
And we're talking about like how you used to actually be Republican.
Yes, that's true.
And was it 3-time Trump voter?
Actually, no.
No.
I only voted once. Which I know we're not talking politics for this one, but I only voted once. The second time, not the first time, not the third time.
Right.
But yes, I'm still technically I'm still registered Republican.
Registered Republican. Okay. And just like, yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today because we're, first off, our podcast is called Reality Redemption. And we're always like, we find it fascinating when we can change or anyone can change, and just want to know the story of it. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the cult that you were involved with?
I was born and raised in Seventh-day Adventism. Richard, my husband here, sitting beside me, he converted to it at
19 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that after you had been already?
No, he had converted to it before he met me.
Yeah, I was a young man, I guess sort of nihilistic about life and aimless, and somebody gave me this DVD set with, it was essentially evangelizing for Seventh-day Adventism, and I watched it, and so I was looking for something with meaning and purpose, and as a 19-year-old, it made sense to me. I didn't know much about anything, and so I ended up embracing it.
And what was the message behind the group? What was it like a religious thing?
Yes, it's religious. It's very all inclusive. It has, lifestyle, uniquenesses. Obviously, it's Seventh Day Sabbath keeping, so you go to church on a different day than the rest of the world.
It's Saturdays, right?
Yes, on Saturdays, yeah.
Right.
And it has a extra biblical prophet that tells you how life is. It has a whole end of the world analogy that's different than anyone else ever has ever thought of.
Yeah, it's all unique to this
What is that?
particular group. And
What's their end of the world?
well, a little bit of the
Analogy.
history behind it. In the early 1800s, there was a movement called the Millerite movement. This is part of the Second Great Awakening, and they actually come out of the burned over district of upstate New York, where there was this wild religious fanaticism at the time and all these different movements. And anyway, Miller, he was doing his own study of prophetic books of the Bible, like Daniel in the Old Testament and Revelation in the New Testament. And he, anyway, through elaborate interpretations, he came up with the idea that the world was going to end on October 22nd, 1844. Well, the world didn't end.
That's why we're here.
It became known as the Great Disappointment.
That's funny.
I mean, these people literally, they left their corn standing in the field because
They
they
didn't
didn't need to
harvest.
pick it because the world was ending.
Oh, wow.
That sort of stuff.
They sold their businesses. They, literally prepared for no more life here on earth because they were going to be taken from the world.
The
quite a
fact that
few
they
in the
do
world
that to
now.
like good people is the thing that
Yeah.
that's probably why I watch so many cults. I'm like, why do you continuously do this to good folks? Like, it's,
Well, yeah, and understanding the psychology of the people that fall into it.
Yeah.
And
People looking for purpose.
but yeah, like
Right.
he was saying, he's like, I was kind of like lost, and
makes
they're
sense.
looking for people who need to
It's,
be
like,
found,
well-meaning,
basically,
you know?
and like, and you can't blame like a 19-year-old for not knowing the meaning of life. I mean, they're trying to figure things out. There's a huge period of life where you're going through, where you're trying to figure. Aren't all of us still trying to figure things out, like on a daily
Yes.
basis? Like, it's not like everything. I bet you there's 80-year-olds who are trying to still figure
A
things
lot of
out.
Well,
people
and-
feel disenfranchised, I feel like, and it's just the way this society is built. It's like,
Right. And the things that we see every day. I mean,
And especially as a 19-year-old, I wanted certainty. Life is filled with ambiguity and uncertainty and mystery, but as a young person, at least for a certain personality type like myself, that was unsettling. It was emotionally disturbing, and so you're looking for something with certainty. And as I've aged, and of course, that's almost 20 years ago now that I was a 19-year-old, but as I've aged, my ability to be okay with mystery has greatly increased, especially in the last few years. But back to the history of the Great Disappointment and the Millerite movement and predicting the end of the world and the return of Jesus, and it didn't happen. After that happened, most people that were in this movement were devastated, obviously, but they went back to their normal lives and said this was all a lie. Miller himself even said everything I taught was wrong, and he went back to his normal life and died 5 years later. And but there was a small group, again, of young people, pretty young people.
They were quite young.
And anyway, they were so upset. I guess they couldn't handle the idea that we got this all wrong, and so they reinterpreted what was going to happen in 1844 and created this entire new sect out of it with brand new doctrines focused on the world is going to end shortly. It's just we misunderstood. They reinterpreted what they believed would happen in 1844 from a earthly event where the world's going to end to a heavenly event where Jesus Christ in heaven is doing a different work for them now in preparation for the end of the world. And even perfectionism is part of this,
It's called the sanctuary doctrine. So in heaven, they say there's a physical sanctuary, much like the Old Testament sanctuary. And so in the Old Testament sanctuary, there's a holy place and a most holy place. So in 1844, instead of coming to earth like they thought was going to happen, they say Christ moved from the holy place to the most holy place to begin working on checking to see who is basically good enough to be saved. And that's the work that's been happening. And so along with this interesting interpretation, because of course they got their dates wrong and they got all this wrong. So now, no, it's not wrong. It's just Christ moved in heaven to do this new work. And we now are living in the days of probation, basically.
Probation.
Yeah, we're living in the days of probation as a group of people, and there's all these rules we should follow and all this stuff to perfect ourselves for this end time coming. And when this end time coming comes, why there's going to be people hunting this group of people, Adventists, down to kill them, and they'll be fleeing to the mountains, and there'll be a Sunday law, which means to them that if the Sunday law is passed, then they're going to be hunted down and hated by everyone. Whereas I started, as we came out, I realized actually it would need to be an against Saturday law, because just because there's a Sunday law doesn't mean they're going to hunt you down and kill you. It would only be if you were no longer allowed to go to your church on Saturday that this would become a problem.
So that trains you to be like very fearful of anyone who's not in your group, because they're out to get you.
And especially people like us who have left the group. The prophet just literally says that the people that leave the group will be the ones telling the government and these people that are out to get them where they are and how to catch them, and that sort of stuff, that we are the worst of the worst, basically, because we left.
And the
Defectors.
And the whole worldview boils down to Seventh-day Sabbath, which is in their name. So they are keeping the true Seventh-day Sabbath found in the Ten Commandments against the rest of the Christian world. And this assumes, obviously, 19th century categories where everyone in that society, for the most part, is going to church on Sunday. But it's them honoring Saturday according to the Ten Commandments, the rest of the world not doing that will then hate them and hunt them and kill them because of it.
Now what?
So then why are the rest of the religions, maybe not all the religions, because I don't think Christianity,
religion.
all of the Christian religions, why are they all about Sunday being the holy day?
The Christian religion, the Christian churches do Sunday as the day of worship because it honors the resurrection of Christ, which he was raised on the first day of the week. So Sunday is technically our first day of the week, even though obviously days through history have, bumped around a bit, but they continue to use that for the honoring of Christ's resurrection.
But the Seventh-day Adventists are no.
Yes.
But it still is
so the Seventh-day
entwined with Christ.
So yes. So there is some Christ, but Christ he's there, but it's very, very different. So the Sabbath became the test. So the Ten Commandments, it says, honor the seventh day and keep it holy. And so they began looking at it, well, all these other people are keeping Sunday. That's not the seventh day. And then they tried to say that Constantine changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday, and there's a whole
in 321 AD.
Okay, yes, you're my dates.
which is inaccurate history. I mean, there's plenty of Christian history, and what Constantine actually did is he legislated Sunday as a day of rest. So Constantine is the emperor who converts to Christianity and makes Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire in the 320s, approximately. And that's when this whole church plus state together amalgamation begins. And so in that there was legislating for certain people that Sunday would have to be a day of rest, not mandated to go to church, just to stop work. But anyway, in the Seventh-day Adventist framing of history, that's the beginning of
apostasy.
Christians honoring Sunday instead of Saturday, which, like I said, is not accurate history. You can find literature from the early church apostolic fathers about worshiping on first day of the week because of the resurrection of Christ, like she meant, but like she mentioned. But anyway, that's where it where their whole idea originates of the truth was in the church way back here. The Christian church deviated from that and has been off ever since. In the 1800s, we're restoring it. And so it's a restorationist movement, much like Joseph Smith and LDS and Jehovah's Witnesses and these other groups as well.
Truth has been lost. We are the special people that are being given visions or golden plates, if you're Mormon, that is restoring the true worship of Christ. And then, but the problem is when you get into that, then ultimately, like I was saying, Christ is still in there because obviously he's in the Bible, and they didn't, say you can't read the Bible. They didn't, but they have this extra biblical prophet that's writing all these visions and all these, this is how it all, what it means. So
she is the infallible interpreter of Scripture, and you might remember this from your Catholic background, much like the magisterium of the Catholic Church infallibly interprets things and tells you what is right and wrong, instead of you reading and deciding what you believe based on your own studies.
Okay. So, like you said, like they have their own rules. How are those rules different, say, than the teachings of Jesus and the Sermon on the Mount? What's the difference between the two?
Well, again, it's in this whole framework. So this prophet is telling everybody how to live because we're in these probationary period. We're in this to purify ourselves. So dietary things. There are some Adventists, Seventh-day Adventists that do still eat meat, but the teachings are vegetarianism, preferably.
I was going to ask that.
Preferably even veganism. Because she talks about how cheese is an abomination to our, shouldn't even enter our mouths and all this sort of stuff.
How dare you, ma'am? Do you understand the power of cheese?
Yes. Well,
You've not seen the commercials. I mean,
Jesus Christ.
and you think cheese is bad. Meat is going to flare your animal passions.
Actually, a reference to that's 19th century Victorian speak for sex drive. And she really, Ellen G. White was the prophet's name and prophetess's name, and she really did kind of have an obsession with controlling the animal passions in her terminology through dietary restriction.
Yes.
I always wondered why they had to be vegetarians. Like, I always wondered that.
They equate animals with sex.
Okay, so now it makes sense. Now that y'all are explaining it, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, I mean, I guess every religion has their thing. Like the Mormons aren't allowed to have like caffeine and stuff like that, right? They can't have soda.
Adventists would say that's not good either. Coffee's not good. Even tea is spoken down about in the prophet's writings. Obviously, milk, dairy, and cheese, and then the big no-no, meat, because that's gonna, make you animal.
You mentioned,
Fuel the passions.
you mentioned something interesting, though, about the teachings of like Seventh-day Adventism versus what Jesus teaches in the Sermon on the Mount. And it's very interesting. If you read Jesus's teachings in the Sermon on the Mount, a lot of it deals with what's in your heart for other people and how are you treating your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself, Jesus's greatest commandment. And Jesus isn't so much calling out external behaviors as bad attitudes in the heart. If you're angry at your brother without cause, you've committed murder in your heart, and if you look at a woman with lust, you're already on the road to adultery, sort of thing. And so he's looking at hard attitudes. But what these groups will do is focus on external behaviors and obsess over controlling outward behaviors and looking really good to the people around you. Well, what's in your heart may still be negative and cruel and anti-human and that sort of thing.
Which
Yeah.
which leads me to the
like-
the next part. Before you decided to leave, how long of a period of it were you questioning yourself? Am I doing the right thing? Why am I involved in this? And let's start there before what finally made you make the decision to do that.
Or yeah, like where you started having questions like, oh, wait a second.
Right. And we each have a little bit of a different journey there. I grew up in this religion, and so it was normal to me in many ways. Although, as somebody that had just grown up in it, I rarely actually read the prophet. I rarely, thought of, that I was, following her. But the teachings permeate the entire system. So I learned all the things the prophet said. I just didn't realize that that's exactly what I was doing. But there'd be things that I'd wonder about, like, well, why do we do this, or why do we do that? And I kind of would, I guess, as every teenager does, rebel a little bit from some of the rules. But I was still definitely Adventist. Then we got married, definitely Adventist, still living our life that way. But was it during 2020 that you kind of started questioning stuff?
Yeah, so under 2020, we were under extraordinary stress because of an unprecedented pandemic and lockdown restrictions, and stuff's happening in the world we've never seen in our life. And we're in this apocalyptic end times cultic mindset from our group. And so, we're freaking out. This is the end of the world scenario happening. It's time to get our garden growing, and
We've got to be self-sufficient.
this.
Before we're chased to the hills, we've got to have all our garden in place and whatnot. and we got to get all our debts paid up. This is all stuff the prophetess tells me. And so he's, I just had a baby, like what?
3 years before.
Yeah, so we had these little kids, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's really happening. This, the end time is here, and we're not out of debt, and we're not self-sufficient, and he's running this business, and so I went into, well, let's get the garden going, and he's like laying on the couch at night, not able to sleep because, oh my goodness, we're not ready.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, It was pretty bad.
That's like a lot. The power that,
because there's this idea you have
Whoa.
to be doing these things to reach a level of perfection. And any human knows none of us are perfect. So in our hearts, we knew we weren't ready if Christ was going to come in the next few years. We hadn't reached this level of perfection. What is it called? The quotes perfectly where she says we must reach this level of where we can stand without a mediator.
Oh, yeah. So she talks about standing in the sight of God Almighty with no mediator, which in traditional Christian theology, the mediator is Jesus Christ. But essentially what she's saying is, you have to be not human anymore, but perfect, never slipping up with a wrong thought or a wrong attitude or a wrong action sort of thing.
Because at the end of this time, why Jesus, who she says is in the most holy place doing all this stuff, he leaves that to come to earth to get us. And during that time period when all this bad stuff is happening, he's left that, and whoever is whatever. And so during that gap between those two things, you must live perfectly between that time, because he's no longer mediating for you, which is actually very antichrist if you really think about it, because Christ is our mediator, which is what the Bible says. So it's actually, even though Christ is in this whole thing, it's actually teaching a different Christ than what the Bible teaches. But that ultimately led to you, looking for stuff online and whatnot, which is how you sort of started.
Right. And so, yeah, under an incredible amount of stress. Obviously, there is no forgiveness or grace in this whole perfectionistic stuff. And so it's an incredible amount of stress. Like I said, not allowed to be a human anymore, essentially. And so I did what I do, which is, analytical deep dives. And I realized, hey, this isn't, historic Christian theology or anything like that. And then I really began to realize the problems with Ellen G. White. Plagiarism is really a big issue, where she quotes extensively from other authors but doesn't cite it and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, really just seeing these issues and intellectually we can't go with this anymore.
So he was doing this on his own. I didn't know he was questioning because, again, you don't vocalize if you're questioning because that's, well, what if I'm leading people astray? What if I'm doing some? So he was doing all this research on his own. I had no clue until, but then, okay, somewhere in there too, we watched a documentary called American Gospel. And it was just really explaining what the gospel is, what the gospel is not. And I was just like, this is beautiful. Why aren't we hearing this at our church? And why aren't we doing this? So I was like accepting the gospel, the actual gospel, which is you're fully forgiven. You are, you're atoned for by Christ and his death on the cross, not your works, not anything you can do. None of that is something that's part of your salvation. So I'm hearing this as like, oh, this is beautiful. This is wonderful. Why aren't we hearing this at church? And then I don't remember what it was. He said something one day, and I knew he'd been listening to some non-Adventist preachers. And in Adventism, that's bad. You're not supposed to read non-Adventist stuff, and you're not supposed to, pay attention to non-Adventist preachers because they'll lead you astray.
Total cult stuff. Exactly. You can't listen to anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah, information control. I don't know if you've heard of the BITE model, but behavior control.
It's a fake religion.
Right? Yeah.
Information control, thought control, emotional control. This was a model put together by Dr. Stephen Hassan. And so you'll see these things like, no reading literature outside of our religious group. And you'll even see it heavily now in MAGA, where it's no listening to that news source that's, not right wing.
Fake news.
They will, yes, that's all fake news, and you'll be duped.
You'll be deceived. But so,
Right?
yeah. So I mean, so I, as his wife, I knew he'd been listening to, and I had been too. But I was thinking I was, not leaving Adventism. I was just listening, But anyway, but then he said something one day that didn't sound very Adventisty. I don't even remember what it was. And I was dutiful wife, and I was, well, if you're not careful, you're going to end up being deceived and let out of the church. And he's like, well, I need to tell you something. So he began sharing all this stuff he'd been looking at for over a year, actually, on his own, just kind of looking and studying and realizing that she was not compared to the Bible, she was not correct. And he started sharing this with me. And at first it was shocking. It was like, what? Oh my goodness, because you're so primed that if you leave it, you're going to be lost. Mm-hmm. You're going to be deceived. You're going to be lost. But at the same time, and because I'd already seen the beauty of the actual gospel, why it's like that was that opening to where it's like I would listen. And so I began reading Ellen White then. I got her books and I started reading what does she actually say. And then I was just like appalled because I started reading through the early writings. It's a book called Early Writings, and it's her visions and all this sort of stuff. And over, the visions are just contradicting what the Bible says. Like one that really stood out to me is, Christ says, if they say, go to the mountains, he is there, or go to the inner chamber, he is there, talking about not following false Christ. So they'll say, Christ is here, go here, go there, not to go. And one of the vision she has, dreams, or I think that one was technically a dream. Um, like, this angel shows up to her and says, "Do you want to see Jesus? I can take you to him." And in this vision, she's like, "Yes, I want to see Jesus." And so she goes with this guide to see Jesus, and he leads her into a building and shows her a winding set of stairs going up to an inner room, and she climbs the stairs to go see Jesus. And I'm just like, the Bible says if he's in the inner chamber, do not go. And so that was like my, like, okay, yeah, we got to relook at this, because this is not biblical. This is a problem. And so anyway, it just, once one piece falls, it's like a domino.
Now,
And
That's
preface,
hilarious that you read her own teachings and they went against everything anyways. It's like you like, lady, you don't even realize how much of a hypocrite you're being. Like, you're
right, because to preface what she was saying about things contradicting the Bible, you're taught in this religion that you and you alone understand the Bible.
Everyone else is deceived. We are right.
And nobody else understands it except for us. And so once you do put two and two together, the hypocrisy is, and the contradiction and the cognitive dissonance is over the top.
Now, once you came to this revelation, how quickly did you just cut ties, or was it like a slow breakaway?
It was actually interesting. So he took a year of research. He then tells me this. I deep dive. I mean, every single evening we're talking nonstop about this. We're looking into things he's found. I'm reading these Ellen White books and like, oh my goodness, this contradicts, this contradicts, this contradicts. And within 2 weeks, I was telling my friend who knew I was a Seventh-day Adventist, she said something, and I was like, I don't know if I could say I'm a Seventh-day Adventist anymore. So it took him a year to even tell me, and within 2 weeks, I was telling my friend, I'm not sure I'm a Seventh-day Adventist anymore. And she wasn't Adventist, so it was like a safe spot that I could say that.
What's interesting, though, is this particular friend was a religious seeker and had already examined numerous religions, not just Christianity and Christian sects, but other world religions. And she had already concluded pretty quickly this Seventh-day Adventist stuff doesn't add up.
Right. So so she was a kind of a safe place to say this to, and then I had a friend to kind of talk through stuff. And we, because we'd already accepted the gospel, we had not fully, like I said, it's a domino effect, but it takes time to fully undo. But yet I remember telling him one day, I think we need to go someplace that is preaching the gospel, even if, because it was new, even if the Sabbath is still right, or even if, this or that is right. I think we need to go someplace where our kids and us are hearing the gospel on a regular basis. So we started going to church, community church on our island. We lived on an island at that point, and in Washington. And we started going to a community church there. And we were still going to the other church too, because we want them to know the gospel, because it's like, this is so beautiful and they should know Ellen White's not right. So we were trying to be...
And we knew they were all under a load of guilt.
Right. We knew they were. So we kept going there and trying to be friends and trying to drop as much gospel and as much kind of hints and whatnot, that maybe there was something better out there than what we'd been told. But that really only lasted about... I want to say
a few months,
4 or 5 months that we did that. And then it just got too hard, because what I started realizing is I'd go to the one place and there was love and joy and this peace feeling. And the other place was, very heavy and just, it didn't feel, true or whatnot. And so, and we were getting kind of backlash from, just talking gospel so much, or, questioning stuff. So we then, at that point, dropped going to the Adventist church at all and just going to the Christian church. So it really was kind of a quick transition. We know people that it takes years, literally years. Now, like I said, the dropping off of all the little things, that takes longer, but we had already decided if the prophet's not true, we can't stay here type thing. Now, the first time I did laundry on Saturday, it felt really weird and like, okay, I hope I'm right. And this isn't gonna, send me to hell,
What was? Now, are you still vegetarian?
No.
What was it like when you first tasted a good burger?
It did not taste good. At first, it did not taste good. No. He had eaten meat. And that's another thing. Like it took a little bit of time. And I swear God was very good to us because I had went to culinary school. I had learned to cook meat, but I still never ate it.
Huh.
So I knew how to cook it. I knew temperatures. I knew the proper way to safely cook it, all this sort of stuff. But I just didn't eat it. And so when we were coming out of this, and he also had gotten type 1 diabetic, and really needed to focus more on protein and stuff. It's like, well, we're not Adventists now, so it's not a sin to eat meat. So let's start eating, anyway.
So glad that we exited that when we did, because not long after that, my genetics caught up with me, which is type 1 diabetes. My dad had adult onset and I inherited it. And, but anyway, yes, it was a huge blessing that I didn't have to live on bread and carbs.
But yeah, I cooked it for him to start with, and I slowly worked my way into chicken. That was the first, okay. But even then it's a mindset, because we'd been told this wasn't food, this was bad, this was all this, whatever. So it's even though I knew it was food, it's I had to I had to teach myself that, yes, this is food, and no, it's not bad. So I think I tasted chicken first on a pizza because I figured there'd be lots of other flavors and it wouldn't be too whatever. But the texture immediately was different than tofu.
Definitely a difference there. Yes, definitely.
And then slowly, I think the way I got myself worked into beef was doing meatloaf. And I used the same recipe I used for my vegetarian meatloaf, just with meat instead of the whatever. So it had lots of, the same flavors and whatnot. And that I worked my way into beef with that. Now I have not successfully moved into fish and seafood. I rarely ever eat any fish or seafood. It's not that I think it's bad or any of that. It's just that particular texture and flavor. There is no vegetarian connection at all.
Well, and you could just not like it. Because there's plenty of people who don't like
and so
seafood.
I just haven't got I mean, I can eat it a little bit here and there, and actually smoked salmon. I like smoked salmon. But yeah, so it that was a process. The meat eating.
Yeah, and the fish and seafood, it's a little bit stinky.
Yeah.
So I mean, who could blame you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Snow, is there anything else you want to add to this? Any other questions?
No. I am still processing so many things. When they were talking about the whole end of the world, the pandemic,
And there's so much to that.
well, I was just my whole empathy drained out of my body and went to them at the time that they were talking, because I'm I could see why they were feeling the way that they felt, and how I was trying to not fight back tears, because I'm the power that the religion put over these people in a time like this is just, it's gross, to do that to people and to make you feel I have to be a perfect person and trying to get ready for end time. That blew me away.
Yeah, especially during that time, because I know we started this podcast around that time because our mental health was taxed at that time.
Yes.
It was hard for everyone. I mean, none of us had experienced anything like that.
Right. But then if you have that teaching that, at some point your government's going to turn on you personally.
Right? Yeah.
It's now all of a sudden this is very, very scary.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for telling your story. That was fascinating.
Yeah.
And good job on you for having and I felt the whole time that you were talking that we have somebody from like MIT on our podcast today talking. Like this guy, you are really, I don't even know if you realize how smart you are. Like, I'm just like, wow, this guy's a smarty pants over here. Like,
I was thinking if people do want to dig more into what, because we obviously only kind of scratch the surface. We can't do an entire, 100 years of history or whatever.
We're not
Right.
Joe Rogan over here.
right. Yeah.
But if people here and are wanting to dig deeper into what the beliefs and the how it's cultic, what's the podcast where the guy looks at all the different ways that Ellen White is very cultic, and even spiritualism and stuff that's in the. What is his?
Oh man, I wish I remembered.
Okay, well, what's
Anyway, there are
there
former
is
Adventists who
former
actually
Adventists.
have podcasts to dissect the issues to help people come out of this. And one thing I would just add is in leaving this, I'm glad we didn't get totally cynical and
Yes.
animosity toward religion, because religion and spirituality is, let's face it, a part of being human. And
Mhm.
there's a healthy religion and spiritual practice, and there's a very unhealthy one, which goes in a fundamentalist, control-based direction. But then there's the other aspect of religion, which can be about loving your neighbor and about grace and forgiveness and those sorts of things.
Yeah, the true
So,
teachings of Jesus are,
yeah.
Just really good. And even if we're not believers per se ourselves, there's nothing wrong with people in having faith and believing in something and having a moral compass.
Exactly.
But, and even like he said, though, like just being like a good person too. Like that's what I kind of got out from that. Like you don't even have to be per se like religious or claim a religion, but you have like maybe just like a good moral compass, and you're like, I don't want to treat people like crap.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
kind of like that. I
And
mean,
that is really kind of what is really lacking today, like these times, that empathy for each other.
Exactly.
I just think that our country should make it more as like religion is like a personal choice, and they should leave it up to individuals. Like, just no one should bash people for wanting to be religious, and no one should force it down people's throats.
Well, as we just
like,
pointed out, I mean,
right?
we were in this religious cult. Well, would you want that religious cult to be the state religion?
No.
But,
Hell no.
But that religious cult wouldn't want Catholic to be the state religion, or any
Right.
other whatever to be the state religion. So even though we're not condoning that people should join a cult, but but we're just saying there is this reality that people fall into different things.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yes,
Yeah.
Don't drink it.
So former Adventist and leaving Adventism, and there's others out there that deep dive into all the nitty gritties as to how it's cultic. Obviously, we were sharing our personal experience, but if you're interested in it, or if you are an Adventist and like, how dare they say this about my religion, do a little digging, check out the plagiarism stuff with an open mind. I know it's hard to hear, but just dig into comparing the prophetess with the scripture and see if there's some contradictions.
I can't wait for the documentary on the Seventh-day Adventists. I mean, they've had them on all of them, like they need to do that too. Because every time I listen to a new one, it reminds me of all the other ones that I've seen before, just with different aspects, it really does.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we'll wrap this up. Thank you very much for joining us. This was fascinating, a lovely conversation. And
you.
I know you're kind of going away for a few months, but we'd love to have you back on again.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.